Supplements. Are they lifesavers or a waste of money? If you're using a supplement, you do need to know the truth. But let's start with the controversy. You'll be familiar with the headlines. Vitamin B could slow the devastating march of Alzheimer's. The Daily Telegraph. Vitamin E slows down Alzheimer's. The LA Times. Lack of vitamin D may have killed Mozart. Discovery News. Lack of dietary vitamins and minerals may increase the risk of cancer. That was The Guardian in 2008. And then, vitamin supplements are a waste of money, say scientists. The Guardian, December 2013. So what is the truth? Well, Dr. Paul Clayton has spent over 30 years researching the effect of diet and nutrition on long-term health.
One of the latest reports from Johns Hopkins, for example, said that one-a-day vitamins, multivitamins and minerals don't have any impact at all. They don't reduce mortality from any of the major causes. Well, nor would one expect them to. They're not designed to do that. The one-a-day products are designed to, I think if you look at their design, to alleviate deficiency diseases. But the fact is, we don't see many cases of scurvy or beriberi or pellagra anymore. That's 19th or early 20th century malnutrition. The issues that we have concerns about today are the chronic degenerative diseases, and although deficiency or depletion in certain vitamins and minerals may contribute to those, the core problem here is increasingly considered to be chronic inflammation, chronic subclinical inflammation. In the Johns Hopkins report, they specifically said, and I think a lot of journalists didn't pick up on this, well, we wouldn't expect a single vitamin mineral pill, a one-a-day pill, to impact on this. No, you wouldn't. You need more substantial inputs to achieve the kinds of outputs, the kinds of health benefits that people want.
You'll notice that Dr. Clayton emphasized that the research behind the negative headlines was done on one-a-day vitamin and mineral supplements. And as he says, they may very well help you prevent being deficient in a particular vitamin or mineral, just as the recommended daily allowance for vitamin C will prevent scurvy, and the RDA vitamin D will prevent rickets, but neither of these are particularly common ailments. But they will have little or no effect on the real cause of age-related diseases. And that is what's called chronic subclinical inflammation.
If you look on the web and look up chronic inflammation, chronic subclinical inflammation, you'll find a lot of references to this, and you'll find a lot of very authoritative scientists, far more authoritative than I am, saying that yes, we believe that chronic inflammation is a cause and a driver of most, if not all, of the chronic degenerative diseases that are so important at the public health level today.
The sort of authorities that Dr. Clayton is talking about include UCLA, and their report says low-grade inflammation, this type of subclinical inflammation, is associated with everything from heart disease and diabetes to Alzheimer's and arthritis, and may even be the cause of most chronic diseases. And Scientific American concurs. Inflammation, this subclinical chronic inflammation, is an underlying contributor to virtually every chronic disease: rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, diabetes, and depression, along with the major killers such as heart disease and stroke. And now the connection between inflammation and cancer has moved to center stage. So it's hardly an exaggeration when Russell Tracy from the University of Vermont says inflammatory factors predict virtually all bad outcomes in humans: having heart attacks, heart failure, becoming diabetic, becoming fragile in old age, cognitive function decline, and even cancer to a certain extent. In summary, this type of inflammation, if it isn't reduced, can lead to heart disease, stroke, cancer, dementia, diabetes, sexual dysfunction, arthritis, and skin aging, because your health on the inside is reflected on the outside. To summarize, as Dr. Clayton himself says, if chronic inflammation is allowed to run unchecked, tissues become dysfunctional and then fail. And that's basically not just age-related disease, but aging itself. He goes on to say, and if you are 50 and over, you will have accumulated damage from this type of inflammation.
Most people, I think, know what acute inflammation looks like. You cut yourself, reddening, swelling, a bit of pain. I mean, that's fine. That's all good stuff. That's part of the healing process. But under certain circumstances, if that is insufficient or if you're exposed to pro-inflammatory stimuli, you move onto a chronic inflammatory phase, which is not something that is quickly resolved. It's not healing. In fact, over the longer term, it's very destructive. Why? Because in the chronic inflammatory process, you have activation of a number of enzymes which start off with COX-1, COX-2, lipox-5, lipox-8, all of those. But then, further downstream from that, you switch on a cascade of enzymes which are known as the matrix metalloproteases. And what these enzymes do, they're the same ones, for example, some people might be more familiar with from the so-called flesh-eating bacteria. What they do is they break down tissue. They erode tissue, they corrode it, if you will. So if these enzymes are activated in the linings of your arteries, they're gradually chewing holes in the linings of your arteries, which then develop atheroma. If it's in the bone, they are gradually eroding away the spicules of bone, the trabeculae, that give the bone its structural integrity. If it's in cartilage, over time, there's a net loss of cartilage. You develop osteoarthritis. If that chronic inflammation is occurring inside your skull, slowly, it's damaging and then killing brain cells. So these are long, slow processes. They take place typically over decades. And the early phases are subclinical, that is, you don't notice, because biologically we have a lot of excess capacity. I mean, for sound evolutionary reasons. But eventually you burn through that excess capacity, that reservoir, and you get down to the critical functioning of an artery, a joint, or a bone. At that point you become symptomatic, and if you keep on going down that road, you will end up with local tissue breakdown and failure. Sounds negative, but it's actually very positive, because that long subclinical phase means this is a period during which we can intervene, put things right, and actually prevent you from ever getting to the point where symptoms emerge.
Well, it's pretty obvious that long-term health involves the reduction of this type of chronic subclinical inflammation. And to do that, you need to incorporate high levels of anti-inflammatory nutrients in your diet.
It's all very well wanting to achieve better life expectancy, but if the last 10% of your life is being spent in progressive medical dependency and becoming progressively more ill, I'm not sure that's much of a bargain. I'm more interested in health expectancy. And if you worked out what chronic inflammation is by now, it makes really very good sense indeed to try to switch off chronic inflammation or reduce chronic inflammation in the body to achieve better health expectancy, which means the following. First, reduce your exposure to pro-inflammatory stimuli. No smoking. You've heard that before. Perhaps less familiar might be fewer fast foods, junk foods. And the reason is fast foods are foods cooked at high temperatures. High temperature cooking produces compounds called ages and ales, which we know derive chronic inflammation. So back to slow foods, back to more or less processed foods. That would be a good thing to do. And then increase your intake of anti-inflammatory nutrients. You have the omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, from oily fish. No other source will do. And you have the polyphenols. And these work independently, but they can be made to work in an integrated way. Put the polyphenols and the omega-3s together, and that gives you, I believe, a far better chance of reducing this chronic inflammatory problem in the body to a point where the body's own ability to repair, to regenerate, and to heal comes to the fore. And now, I think, this is where increased health expectancy comes in.
The first step in extending your health expectancy would be to feature in your diet foods containing omega-3 and polyphenols, which are high in anti-inflammatory nutrients. This obviously includes oily fish, but high levels of fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. That's why Dr. Clayton has teamed up with a TV chef to produce a cookbook with delicious and healthy starters, main courses and desserts. But you will also notice he talks about supplementation. The obvious question is, why can't you get everything you need from your diet?
Well, the classical argument that you still hear some nutritionists come out with today is they'll say, well, you don't need supplements, you can get everything you need from a well-balanced diet. I'm surprised, frankly, to hear people still coming out with that, because it just isn't true anymore. It may well have been true a couple of generations ago when we lived much more physically active lives than we do today. We were consuming 1,000, perhaps to 3,000 calories more than we do now, and we're eating largely unprocessed foods. Under those circumstances, I would say, yes, you probably could get everything you needed from a well-balanced diet. And we evolved long before supplements came on the scene. You've never seen as physically inactive a generation as we see today, as we are today. So if you're living at, let's say, 2,000, 200, 300, 400 calories a day, and you don't want to gain weight, you're eating that much, but you're making food choices from the selection that's made available to you by the contemporary food industry, you're going to be depleted. There's no two ways about it. No matter how carefully you pick and choose, you won't have enough of all the key anti-inflammatory micronutrients, let alone the whole of the rest of the range. That takes, from my calculations, almost a minimum of 3,500 calories a day. And not many of us are active enough to be able to consume that number of calories. So you need to increase the nutrient density of the foods that you eat.
So here's a counterintuitive point. We may not eat enough. I mean, clearly, your food intake with, say, a one-a-day vitamin and mineral supplement may well meet the recommended daily allowances for the fairly limited number of vitamins and minerals that are classified. But particularly after a certain age, it is very likely to be insufficient to prevent long-term inflammatory damage.
If you're living and working in a city, driving to work each day, sitting down at a desk as a job, sitting down, traveling home, and then sitting down in front of a TV, well, you can't do it through your diet. So just pragmatically, although I don't care how you do it, pragmatically, for most people today, a properly designed nutrient support program is the only way to go.
That's why Dr. Clayton has designed a supplement. That supplement is called NutriShield. It looks and is very different from an ordinary vitamin and mineral supplement. There are 6 capsules in a convenient day pack. The first is a multivitamin and mineral A to Z caplet, but at optimum rather than just RDA levels. The second capsule contains high levels of polyphenols, that's flavonoids from green tea extract, grapeseed extract, and curcumin, all very powerful anti-inflammatories. The third capsule is an omega-3 fish oil capsule with high levels of what's called EPA and DHA. The fourth capsule includes co-enzyme Q10, which helps your mitochondria to extract energy from food. It also includes glucosamine, which, while it has comparatively little effect on its own, is effective combined with vitamin D and vitamin K, which are included. The fifth caplet includes soy isoflavones and a lesser-known nutrient called betaine, which helps lower homocysteine levels, and lower homocysteine levels indicate a lower risk of heart disease. The sixth capsule contains vitamin E and carotenoids, and not just beta-carotene, which is associated with heart health, but lutein, extensively researched for its role in eye health, and lycopene, which many researchers believe is important as an anti-cancer defense. It is a far more comprehensive supplement than a simple one-a-day pill. So we can now begin to understand the apparently contradictory headlines about supplements. The one-a-day vitamin and mineral pills may prevent deficiency, but they lack the necessary range of protective nutrients to defend us against long-term inflammatory-based diseases.
In your 20s, 30s and 40s, you've got your youth going for you. the processes of repair, regeneration, generally working reasonably well. As we move into middle age and beyond, those regenerative aspects in many areas begin to show signs of running down. But there's another argument too. Even if you have chronic inflammation, starting at the age of 20, we know, for example, many 20-year-olds have got signs of coronary artery disease. They already have these diseases, but it takes a long time for this process to create so much damage that it creates symptoms, and at that point you go to your doctor and you're told you have a degenerative disease, and then to become disabling. So I would say, you can get away with it, with an unhealthy lifestyle and diet, for quite a period of time. But by the time you get into your 50s and then beyond, very often the damage will have accumulated to the point where it is now starting to cause problems, and at this point, unless you're very fatalistic indeed, and you're just quite happy to accept your lot and go gently into that dark night, then it is time to start doing something about it. Improving your nutrient status, trying to change your body from a pro-inflammatory towards an anti-inflammatory direction, and reducing risk. And at that point, supplementation does become important.
In summary, NutriShield combines the lessons from the very latest medical research with the most protective nutrients identified in the diets of the healthiest, longest-lived societies. But what's the evidence that it works?
I think if you're interested in the idea of a supplement of any sort, you really should ask the person or the company who are behind it, what evidence have you got that this works? And I'd have to say right away that for most companies the evidence doesn't exist. And for most products currently on the market, the evidence doesn't exist. The formulation that I've had a hand in, we actually did trial. We didn't have the resources to give this to 5,000 people for 20 years and then see how well or otherwise they did. I'd have liked to have done that, but not realistic. So instead, we worked with the industry benchmark study, which is an ex vivo test. We take white blood cells, various types of white blood cells, and we expose them to the active Xano formulation, and then we look at their subsequent behavior, whether it is pro or anti-inflammatory, whether the cytokines, the messengers they produce, are aggressive, the kind that would be involved in tissue damage, or benign. And the results were unequivocal, pretty much as we expected. The formulation was demonstrably and significantly anti-inflammatory. It was switching off the secretion, the synthesis of the key pro-inflammatory mediators. Is that clinical proof? No, that's not. But it's the best that exists. It's the best that we have, and it's the best you'll find at this moment in time. If I'd known 30 years ago what I know now, this is the kind of help that I would have given my parents. I didn't really know at the time as much as I've now come to understand about the importance of nutrition.
NutriShield is used by many health professionals. It's a serious supplement for people who are serious about their health. Go to NutriShield.com now and claim your free copy of Dr. Clayton's anti-inflammatory cookbook.